I, 28F, never thought I'd be writing this, but here I am, feeling lost and betrayed by my own family. To give you some context, I'm the biological daughter of my parents, and when I was 10, they adopted my sister Kelly, 25F. Growing up, I was always a bit of a perfectionist. I did well in school, played the piano, and was generally the easy child. My parents, both successful professionals, had high expectations, but I usually met them without too much trouble. We lived in a nice suburban home and life was pretty good. Then came Kelly. My parents had always talked about adoption, wanting to give a home to a child in need. When they told me about Kelly, I was excited at first. I'd always wanted a sister, and I imagined us becoming best friends, sharing clothes, and having late-night chats. Reality, however, was very different. Kelly came from a troubled background. Her biological parents were drug addicts, and she'd been in and out of foster homes since she was a toddler. The day she arrived, I remember being struck by how small and scared she looked, her big brown eyes darting around nervously. From the very beginning, it was clear that things would be challenging. Kelly had severe behavioral issues due to her past trauma. I won't go into details, but it was significant. She would have violent outbursts, breaking things and screaming for hours. Other times, she'd become completely withdrawn, refusing to speak or eat. Growing up with her was exhausting. I constantly felt like I was walking on eggshells, afraid of setting her off. Despite this, I tried my best to be understanding and supportive. I remember spending countless nights sitting outside her bedroom door while she cried, just trying to let her know she wasn't alone. As we got older, Kelly's issues didn't improve much. In fact, they seemed to get worse as we entered our teenage years. While I was focusing on my studies and extracurricular activities, Kelly was getting into trouble at school. She started hanging out with a rough crowd, skipping classes, and coming home late. Things came to a head when Kelly was 16. She started drinking heavily and even experimenting with drugs. I was terrified for her, remembering the stories we'd heard about her biological parents. I tried to talk to her about it, but she just pushed me away, accusing me of trying to act superior. Despite the tension between us, when Kelly's drinking spiraled into a full-blown addiction, I stood by her. I supported her through rehab, drove her to AA meetings, and did everything I could to help her stay sober. It was draining and heartbreaking, but I did it because I believed that despite our challenges, we were still sisters. Throughout all of this, I often felt like an outsider in my own family. My parents constantly prioritized Kelly's needs over mine, always making excuses for her behavior and expecting me to be the understanding one. I can't count the number of times I had to cancel plans or give up opportunities because Kelly was having a crisis or needed support. I remember one particular incident that still stings. It was the night of my high school graduation. I was valedictorian and was supposed to give a speech. My parents had promised to be there, front and center. But an hour before the ceremony, Kelly had a meltdown. She'd been sober for a few months at that point, but the stress of me graduating and potentially leaving for college had triggered her. My parents decided to stay home with her. They didn't even call to let me know. I found out when I looked out at the audience and saw their empty seats. I gave my speech with a lump in my throat fighting back tears. When I got home, they apologized profusely, but the damage was done. It was just one more instance where Kelly's needs trumped mine. Despite all this, I tried to maintain a relationship with Kelly. As we entered our 20s, things seemed to stabilize a bit. Kelly got a job at a local cafe and seemed to be doing better. We even had moments where it felt like we were actually sisters, grabbing coffee together or having movie nights at home. Then I met Sebastian, 30M. He was everything I could have hoped for, kind, supportive, and understanding of my complicated family situation. We dated for 5 years and he became my rock, always there to listen when things got tough with Kelly or my parents. When Sebastian proposed, I was over the moon. We decided to have a small engagement party at my parents' house. It was supposed to be a joyous occasion, a chance for our families to come together and celebrate our love. I was excited to have a day that was just about us, without any family drama. The party started well enough. Everyone seemed to be having a good time, and for once I felt like the center of attention in a positive way. But then Kelly showed up, 2 hours late and clearly drunk. I could smell the alcohol on her breath from across the room. I tried to keep things calm, hoping she would behave herself. But as the night went on, Kelly became increasingly disruptive. She started making loud, inappropriate comments about Sebastian and me, telling embarrassing stories from our childhood, and even hinting at past relationships I'd had. The final straw came when Kelly decided to make a toast. She stood up, swaying slightly, and began a rambling speech about how she always knew I'd settle for someone like Sebastian because I was too afraid to be alone. She went on to say that our engagement probably wouldn't last because I was too selfish to be in a real relationship. I was mortified. Sebastian was visibly upset, and our guests were clearly uncomfortable. I asked Kelly to stop, but she just laughed and continued her tirade. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up, told Kelly she needed to leave, and asked my dad to drive her home. To my shock, my parents refused. They said I was being too sensitive and that Kelly was just having fun. They suggested that I was overreacting and should be more understanding of Kelly's struggles. It was like I was 16 again, watching them prioritize Kelly's feelings over my big moment. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was supposed to be my special day, and once again Kelly was ruining it while my parents enabled her behavior. In that moment, something inside me snapped. I told my parents that if they wouldn't ask Kelly to leave, then Sebastian and I would go. We left our own engagement party with my parents calling after us, telling me I was being dramatic. Most of our guests followed suit, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. Sebastian and I spent the rest of the night in stunned silence, trying to process what had happened. Since then, my parents have been calling and texting nonstop, telling me I need to apologize to Kelly for embarrassing her at the party. They say I should be more understanding of her struggles with addiction and that family should always come first. But where was this family-first attitude when I needed them at my graduation? Or any of the other countless times I was pushed aside for Kelly? I'm done. I'm tired of always being the one who has to understand, who has to forgive, who has to sacrifice. I've spent my entire life catering to Kelly's needs and issues, and I can't do it anymore. I feel like I've lost so much of myself trying to be the perfect daughter and sister, and I'm not willing to lose anything else. I've decided to uninvite my parents and Kelly from the wedding. Sebastian supports my decision, but some of my extended family members think I'm being too harsh. They say I'll regret cutting off my family over one bad night. But it wasn't just one bad night, it was the last straw in a lifetime of being second best, of having my feelings and needs ignored in favor of Kelly's. Am I wrong for standing my ground? Should I give my family another chance? I feel like I'm at a crossroads, and I don't know what to do. Part of me feels guilty for potentially cutting ties with my family, but another part feels relieved at the thought of not having to deal with this constant drama anymore. Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1. It's been a week since my last post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. It's been incredibly helpful during this difficult time. After reading your comments, I realized I needed to have a serious conversation with my parents. I called them and asked if we could meet in person to talk things through. They agreed, and we met at a neutral location, a quiet cafe near their house. As I sat across from them, I couldn't help but remember all the family dinners we'd had over the years. The good times when we'd laugh and share stories, but also the tense moments when Kelly's issues would overshadow everything else. It was strange to think how much had changed. I started by explaining how hurt I was by what happened at the engagement party, and how their reaction made me feel. I told them about all the times I felt overlooked or dismissed in favor of Kelly's needs. I brought up specific incidents, the missed graduation, birthdays that were overshadowed by Kelly's crises, the constant expectation that I would be the one to make sacrifices. To my surprise, they actually listened without interrupting. I could see the pain in their eyes as I spoke, and for a moment, I felt a pang of guilt. But I reminded myself that this conversation was long overdue. When I finished, my mom broke down in tears. She admitted that they had been so focused on helping Kelly overcome her issues that they had taken me for granted. My dad, who's usually stoic, looked genuinely remorseful. He talked about how proud he was of me, how he'd always admired my strength and resilience. It was nice to hear, but it also made me sad to think about how rarely he'd expressed those feelings before. They apologized for their behavior at the party and for not standing up for me. They also acknowledged that they had enabled Kelly's behavior for far too long, always making excuses for her instead of holding her accountable. My mom shared how terrified they'd been of losing Kelly to her addiction, and how that fear had clouded their judgment when it came to parenting both of us. We talked about our family history, how things had changed after Kelly's adoption. They admitted that they'd struggled to balance the needs of both their daughters, and in their efforts to help Kelly heal from her trauma, they'd inadvertently hurt me. It was a painful conversation, but it felt like we were finally addressing issues that had been simmering for years. However, when I brought up my decision to uninvite them and Kelly from the wedding, things got tense again. They begged me to reconsider, saying that a family should be together for such an important event. They promised that they would make sure Kelly behaved and suggested that maybe she could attend the ceremony, but not the reception. I could see the hope in their eyes, the desire to fix things. Part of me wanted to give in, to believe that this time would be different. But I thought about all the broken promises over the years, all the times I'd been let down, and I knew I couldn't risk it. I stood my ground. I told them that while I appreciated their apology, I needed time to heal and rebuild trust. I explained that my wedding day should be a happy, stress-free occasion, and I couldn't risk Kelly causing another scene. I shared how Sebastian felt about the situation, how he'd been hurt by Kelly's words at the engagement party too. They were upset, but seemed to understand. Before we parted, they asked if I would consider family therapy to work through our issues. I told them I'd think about it, but I'm not sure if I'm ready for that yet. The idea of sitting in a room with Kelly and hashing out years of resentment feels overwhelming right now. After meeting with my parents, I decided to reach out to Kelly. I wasn't sure if I was ready to talk to her directly, so I sent her a text asking if we could talk. Her response was, Not what I expected. Kelly replied with a long message, alternating between apologizing profusely and lashing out at me. She said she was sorry for ruining the party, but also accused me of always trying to show her up and make her look bad. She claimed that I had always been the perfect daughter and that she felt like she could never measure up. Reading her words, I felt a mix of anger and sadness. I thought about all the times I'd tried to help her, all the nights I'd spent worrying about her when she was in the depths of her addiction. How could she see that as me trying to show her up? But then I thought about it from her perspective. How must it have felt to come into a family where there was already a child who seemed to have it all together? How hard must it have been to constantly feel like she was falling short? I replied, telling her that I never meant to make her feel that way, and that I had always tried to support her. I also made it clear that while I understood she was struggling, her behavior at the engagement party was unacceptable. I told her about my decision regarding the wedding, explaining that I needed to prioritize my own happiness and mental health. Kelly didn't respond after that. I'm not sure where we stand now, but I feel like at least some things are out in the open. Maybe this silence is what we both need right now. As for the wedding, Sebastian and I have decided to stick to our decision. My parents and Kelly won't be invited. It's a hard choice, but I feel it's necessary for my peace of mind. We've started planning a smaller, more intimate wedding. It's not what I had originally envisioned, but Sebastian has been incredibly supportive. He keeps reminding me that the day is about us and our love, not about family drama. We've been looking at venues for a destination wedding. The idea of getting married on a beautiful beach, far away from all this stress, is becoming more and more appealing. It would be a fresh start, a way to begin our married life without the shadow of family issues hanging over us. I'm still processing everything that's happened, but I feel like I'm on the right path. It's hard and it hurts, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm putting myself first. I'm learning that it's okay to set boundaries, even with family. It doesn't mean I don't love them, it just means I'm finally learning to love myself too. I'll keep you updated on how things progress. Thank you all again for your support and advice. It means more than you know. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update and things have taken an unexpected turn. I'm still trying to process everything that's happened, but I felt I owed you all an update. About 2 weeks ago, I received a call from my mom. She sounded distraught and told me that Kelly had been in an accident. Apparently, she had been driving under the influence and crashed her car into a tree. Thankfully, no one else was hurt, but Kelly was in the hospital with some serious injuries. I was shocked and conflicted. Part of me was angry that Kelly was still drinking and driving, potentially putting others at risk. But another part of me was worried sick about her. Despite everything, she's still my sister. I thought about all the times we'd shared growing up, the rare good moments between the chaos. I remembered how she'd hold my hand when we watched scary movies, even though she was younger than me. After talking it over with Sebastian, I decided to go to the hospital. When I arrived, I found my parents in the waiting room, looking exhausted and scared. They seemed relieved to see me, but there was an undeniable tension in the air. It felt strange to be there with them, after weeks of minimal contact. The doctor informed us that Kelly had a broken leg, several fractured ribs, and a concussion. She was stable, but would need to stay in the hospital for a while. When we were allowed to see her, I was struck by how small and vulnerable she looked in the hospital bed. It reminded me of the day she first came to live with us, that same scared look in her eyes. Kelly was groggy from the medication, but when she saw me, she started crying. Through her tears, she apologized for everything: the engagement party, her behavior over the years, and for disappointing all of us again. It was a raw, emotional moment that caught me off guard. I found myself holding her hand, just like we used to do during those scary movies. Over the next few days, I found myself spending more time at the hospital than I had anticipated. Kelly and I had some long, difficult conversations. She opened up about her struggles with addiction and her feelings of inadequacy. She told me about the constant fear she lived with, the trauma from her early childhood that still haunted her. It didn't excuse her behavior, but it helped me understand it better. I shared my frustrations and hurt over the years of feeling sidelined. I told her how much it had hurt to always feel like I came second, how I'd struggled with feelings of resentment and guilt. We talked about our childhood, the good and the bad. We laughed about some of the silly fights we'd had and cried about the bigger ones. It wasn't easy, and there were moments of tension and tears, but for the first time in years, I felt like we were really communicating. It was like we were finally seeing each other clearly, without the fog of resentment and misunderstanding that had clouded our relationship for so long. During this time, I also had several talks with my parents. They seemed to have had a wake-up call with Kelly's accident. They admitted that their approach to handling Kelly's issues had been flawed, and that they had unintentionally hurt me in the process. They expressed a genuine desire to make things right. My dad opened up about his own struggles with feeling like he had failed as a father. He talked about how he had always wanted to protect both of us, but felt like he was constantly falling short. My mom shared how she had been battling depression for years, trying to hold the family together while feeling like she was falling apart herself. It was eye-opening to realize that they had been fighting their own battles all this time. As Kelly's condition improved and she prepared for discharge, we all agreed that she needed to enter a rehabilitation program. My parents found a good facility, and Kelly agreed to go. It was a big step, and I felt cautiously optimistic. Seeing Kelly take responsibility for her actions and actively choose to get help was something new, and it gave me a glimmer of hope. Now here's where things get complicated. My parents asked if I would reconsider my decision about the wedding. They promised that things would be different and that they understood if I wanted to set strict ground rules. They suggested that maybe Kelly could attend the
ceremony, but not the a sober companion to be with her throughout the event. I'm torn. On one hand, I've seen real effort and change from both Kelly and my parents. The conversations we've had over the past few weeks have been more honest and open than any we've had in years. There's a part of me that wants to believe this could be a turning point. I'm worried about opening myself up to more hurt and disappointment. I think about all the times in the past when things seemed to be getting better, only for Kelly to relapse. The idea of having to worry about Kelly's behavior on my wedding day. Sebastian has been incredibly supportive through all of this. He's been my rock, listening to me process all these complicated emotions. He says he'll stand by whatever decision I make, but he's cautioned me to be careful and to prioritize my own well-being. He reminded me that it's okay to take things slow, that rebuilding trust takes time. Final decision, yet a part of me wants to believe that this could be a new beginning for our family. Scared of being let down again. I keep thinking about the little girl I was, always hoping things would get better, always being disappointed, but then I think about Kelly and that to want to change, and I wonder if I'd be making a mistake by not giving her this chance. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Am I naive for even considering letting them come to the wedding? Or am I being too harsh if I don't give them this chance? This whole situation has been such an emotional roller coaster. Update 3. It's been 2 months since my last update, and I wanted to share the final outcome of this situation. A lot has happened, and I've had to make some tough decisions after much deliberation, and I decided to give my family another chance. I agreed to invite, but very strict conditions. Kelly had to complete her rehabilitation program and maintain sobriety. My parents had to attend family therapy sessions with me, and we all agreed to have open on. For a while, things seemed to be improving. Kelly completed her rehab program and was attending her regular AA meetings. She even got a sponsor and seen recovery. My parents and I had some productive therapy session where we addressed the years of built-up resentment and misunderstandings. Like we were making progress. I started to feel hopeful. We had family dinners where we could actually talk. Kelly and I even went shopping for my wedding dress together, which was a surreal but nice experience. It felt like maybe, just maybe, we could have the kind of family relationship I'd always hoped for. However, about 3 weeks before the wedding, everything fell apart. I received a call. Kelly had relapsed. She had gotten drunk and had a fight with our parents during which she said some incredibly hurtful things about me and Sebastian. Apparently, Kelly had been struggling with the idea of me getting married. She felt like she was being left behind. That once I had Sebastian, I wouldn't need her anymore. In her drunken state, she accused me of always trying to one-up her, of getting married just to prove I was better than her. She said terrible things about Sebastian, calling him boring and saying I was settling. My heart sank. Despite all the progress we thought we had made, we were back at square one. I realized then that I had been holding on to a hope that wasn't realistic. I had wanted so badly to believe that everything could be fixed, that we could be a happy family for my wedding. But the reality was different. After talking it over with Sebastian, I made the difficult decision to uninvite Kelly from the wedding. I called my parents to inform them, and to my shock, they defended Kelly. They said I was being cruel and unforgiving, that families should stick together no matter what. They argued that Kelly was sick and needed our support, not our judgment. It was like all of our therapy sessions had never happened. In that moment, I knew what I had to do. With a heavy heart, I uninvited my parents as well. I told them that I loved them, but I couldn't keep sacrificing my happiness and mental well-being for a family dynamic that wasn't healthy. I explained that I needed to prioritize my relationship with Sebastian and our future together.
The wedding went ahead as planned, but with a much smaller guest list. It was a beautiful, intimate ceremony with just our closest friends and Sebastian's family. Despite the sadness I felt about my family's absence, it was a joyful day, filled with love and laughter. Sebastian and I exchanged our vows on a beautiful beach at sunset, just as we had dreamed. In the weeks since the wedding, I've had minimal contact with my family. My parents have reached out a few times, alternating between guilt-tripping me and demanding apologies. Kelly sent me a long, rambling text that was part apology, part accusation. I've decided to maintain low contact for now, focusing on my new life with Sebastian. We've just returned from our honeymoon, and as I sit here in our new home, I feel a mix of emotions. There's sadness for the family relationships I've lost, but also a sense of peace. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm not responsible for managing everyone else's emotions and problems. It's been a difficult journey, and there are times when I second-guess my decisions. But ultimately, I know I did what was best for me and for my marriage. I've learned that sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is to set boundaries, even if it means distancing yourself from family. I want to thank everyone who has followed this story and offered advice along the way. Your support has meant more than you know.
While this isn't the happy ending I once hoped for, I'm at peace with my decisions and looking forward to building a healthy, happy life with Sebastian. Who knows what the future holds, but for now, I'm focused on this new chapter of my life.